Housen is one of those Gintama antagonists who appears early in the story and is praised for being great, but even so never seems to appear in discussions of best characters or even best antagonists in the series, especially when characters like Utsuro, Takasugi, Nobunobu and Izaburo enter the conversation. However, much like the Yoshiwara in Flames arc in general, Housen is an incredibly thematically rich character and should be held up there with the best of Gintama's antagonists, and so that is what we shall discuss today. If you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell, as I cannot explain to you how much such a small action could do for this channel, and if you want to go the extra mile to support this channel even further, then consider pledging to my Patreon. Anyway, on with the video. Housen was the king of the Yato, someone who even the great Umibozu could not beat with ease. He was described as the king of the night, as he is the personification of everything a Yato should be. He is the king of the people who are hated by the sun and hide in the darkness. Yato who follow their blood are violent, greedy, lustful and seek strength through fighting and killing above all else. Housen then is a prime example of a Yato who fulfills all this criteria and takes a lot of them to their extremes. He is the prime example of what a Yato can be when they fully conform to their nature, and that's his biggest flaw. As even if he acts like any old Yato, deep down Housen does desire to change and escape his Yato blood, even if he can't. The Yato overall represent a very powerful concept in Gintama. They represent the power of strength and the right and wrong ways to wield it. The Yato's natural bloodlust and desire to fight is not an inherently good or bad thing, instead how it is acted upon is what is important.
ヤトの血に流され戦場をさまようだけのお前らと私は自分の戦場は自分で決める。血ではなく心で自分の守りたいもののために戦場に立つある。
There are those who fight to protect others like the Umibozu and Kyoka, and at the same time those who fight for nothing but attaining strength and hurting others like Kamui and of course Housen. Yet out of these four, which two were happy and content with their lives, and which two were never able to achieve what they really desired? That's the lesson the Yato teach, that true strength comes from protecting others, not from hurting others. I mean, one of the largest themes in the entire series is the nature of protecting what you care for. Kagura is an excellent example of this. The one time she gives into her rage and bloodlust, she almost defeats Abato, but by doing so fought for the wrong reasons and almost lost a very important part of herself, a part that made her happy. She fought him for the sake of fighting when she should have fought to protect her friends. As she says after the fight, she was too weak and so almost gave into her blood, which is basically a very clear way of saying that those who give into their Yato blood are weak. As fighting alongside others to protect what you cherish and to honour your ideals, now that is true strength. After all, Utsuro, the strongest character in the series, is defeated not by one person, but by Gintoki fighting to protect his ideals with the soul of Takasugi by his side. Of course this is shown with Housen himself, where despite being physically stronger, he lost to Gintoki because Gintoki was shouldering the hopes of everyone around him. The strongest Yato are those who fight with others for others. They don't fight for their blood but for their hearts. Strength in general, and more specifically with the Yato, is like a body of water. Depending on how you fuel it, you will either float to the surface or down to the bottom where light doesn't reach. This is symbolically why the Yato are weak to the sun, as they give in to their negative aspects of strength, and so fall down into the dark depths where no light reaches. However, those Yato who fight the right way and wield strength correctly like Kagura and Kyoka, are commonly seen venturing out into the daylight as they haven't plunged down into the depths where sunlight doesn't exist. Housen though is someone who simultaneously loves and hates the sun more than anyone else, as Housen, despite being the truest to his Yato blood, wants to be free of it. He seeks the sun as he cannot have it. He seeks to be free of the chains of his title of the King of the Night. The reason he kept Hinawa locked up inside of Yoshiwara, chained down to his side, was because he saw the sun in her eyes and in her will, and so Housen, unable to claim the sun, can at least claim the woman he heralds as the son of Yoshiwara. He chains and traps her as that's what a Yato does. Despite desiring to have the sun, he instead causes pain to Hinawa, as to do this is only in his nature, as once again he is chained down by his Yato blood. The sun is very symbolic in Gintama. It symbolises new beginnings and hope, as no matter how dark it gets, sunrise will always come. Housen and other Yato like him then, due to their bloodlust and thirst for power, remain in the darkness of the night, moving deeper into the depths away from hope and change. However, dawn always comes, and so when Housen is forced into the sun, he is shown the truth of strength as he is defeated by a lone man who carried with him the wishes of so many people. Housen may have wanted to change but was unable to. He was just in too deep. He had given into the darkness of his Yato blood too much, and as such he was unable to bear the light of the sun, of a new beginning, and so shriveled up, unable to move towards a new era. He was confined in the old era by his Yato blood, and so was unable to change and live on. Overall, Housen to me is a brilliant representation of what it means to fight for the wrong reasons. He seeks power, he fights to hurt and dominate others. He isn't equal to the Umibozo, one of the strongest beings in all of existence, but yet still lives a life of living day to day with no greater aspirations or dreams. When he finally finds the thing he wanted the most, the sun, he gives into his Yato blood and chains it. He just can't bring himself to act outside of his nature. He never acts for his heart, only for his blood. The tragedy of his character comes from the fact that he himself was trapped. Like how he trapped the woman of Yoshiwara, he himself was trapped by his own Yato blood. Kagura, Kyoka and Umibozo, heck even Kamui later in the series, all learn and use true Yato strength, the kind that doesn't leave you empty, seeking either an unattainable strength, or being left alone at the peak with no further to climb. However, they could only do so because they had people they cared for and people to protect and fight alongside. It was the Yororozu, Kagura's family, that gave her strength, not her Yato blood, telling her to get strong by killing tough opponents. And the truly tragic thing is that Housen could have done this, as he did have someone he loved and cared for and someone who felt the same way about him. If Housen showed Hinawa love and care, if he acted with his heart and not his blood, then everything would have turned out different. However, he was unable to escape his own blood, and so instead of loving her, he chained and hurt her. Housen did have good intentions, but his execution was all wrong. And so he died as a monstrous Yato at the hands of the collective hope the people he chained down showed him. The son he so desperately wanted had been all around him the whole time, but he was just unable to grasp it. In his last moments, Hinawa offered him her lap, as even if it was too late for him to change, for at least one moment he would be able to escape the darkness of his Yato blood and live in the sun. His grave being dug in a sunny place is bittersweet in this way. Sure, he finally got to spend time under the sun away from his Yato nature, but only after his Yato life was snuffed out. His heart couldn't act till his blood stopped flowing. I can understand why so many people don't consider Housen worthy of having such a sympathetic ending to his story, stating how so many other Yato proved that if he really wanted to, he could have changed. But I think that's kind of missing the point to an extent. He isn't sympathetic because he wanted to change, he is sympathetic because he was unable to. His actions were heinous and hard to reasonably forgive, but the feelings of a man who wanted to change but felt chained by his blood, at least to me, makes me feel just a little bit of sympathy. He truly did love Hinawa, but unable to properly act on those feelings, he instead hurt her. He only knew how to hurt and take, and so couldn't love and give. Though this isn't to say he couldn't have. Housen for sure could have changed, as so many other Yato in the story did, but even if he desired to live under the sun, as not a Yato but just as an old man, it doesn't change the fact that he hurt others, took from others and chained others. He only loved the sun because he hated it, and so only wanted to escape his Yato blood because he couldn't. He is for this reason a very layered character, one worthy of both scorn and sympathy, and is not one who can simply be called this way or that. He's a great example of how even in the earlier arcs, Gintama's antagonists are never simple, that even if they are dark, there is always some light within, as there cannot be light without the dark. And Housen the King of the Night, who desired nothing but the sun, demonstrates this point to an excellent extent. Comment of the week comes from JMixter1221, and I'm glad you're enjoying the Medaka Box videos, because there's a lot more to come. If you're interested in my literary endeavours, then why not check out my books Gang, Fluid Justice and People of Fate Volume 1, available at Amazon.com. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting this channel, then consider pledging to my Patreon, where for as little as £2.75 a month, you can get your name at the end of the video, like Hikari Desu, 7SO, Smokey McBobby and Rinjack9696. So with all that said and done, I've been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I'm signing out. Stay safe, everyone.